Welcome to another video notes presentation, and this one is on, as you can see, ancient China, focusing on the political history. Today we're going to be looking at three dynasties, the oldest and the first being the Shang Dynasty, then we have the Zhou Dynasty, and finally the Qin. Just a word to the wise, on your note sheet, so there isn't an official notes, but you want to make sure that you're writing down key thoughts, key ideas that will help you remember and understand and process ancient Chinese, the dynasties, the political history of it. So, just to recap on Aryan society, because if we're following the Persia model, the last letter Persia, A stands for area, and then S stands for society. China is geographically isolated, so looking on the map, to the east lies the Pacific Ocean, to the north, west, and southwest we have mountains, here the Himalayas, and deserts in most of China. And because of this natural isolation, this led to the belief that China was the center of Earth, at the absolute pinnacle of culture, and this was essential for a lot of what the Chinese believed, especially when they came in contact with Europeans once they start the age of exploration. They start trying to port on in China. And with society, this links very well because the king was considered the absolute ruler over this center of the earth Chinese belief system. And Chinese history tends to revolve in cycles, or the rise of a dynasty, the ruling of a dynasty, so coming straight across, and then finally the collapse of the dynasty or the decline of it. This is a cycle, so you see these things happening over and over throughout history, and the first one we're going to look at is the Shang. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so the Shang is probably the oldest Chinese dynasty. If you look up on the map in the top left corner, Shang is highlighted in red, and it's quite small compared to modern day China that you see in the lighter color. The king was considered the absolute ruler, and most of the people during this time are peasant farmers. Remember, because this is a feudalistic society. What they are known for is, most well known for, is their use of oracle bones, and they use these oracle bones and as a way to communicate with their gods. The priest would take an animal shell, such as a turtle shell, and write a question that you had on the inside of the shell, and then heat it over a fire until it cracked. And then once it cracked, he would take it out, and he would interpret the message based on reading the crackings along the Chinese characters. Then we have the Zhou Dynasty, which runs from 1028 BCE to 256. And the Zhou were able to establish their own dynasty after they used the Mandate of Heaven to overthrow the Shang. And the Mandate of Heaven, if you recall, is the authority from the higher power, the divine, to rule over an area. Now, the Zhou were known to be quite good rulers, for lack of a better word. They built a lot of roads to help expand trade, because if it makes it easier to travel on the road, then you're going to have more people trading with one another. They were the first to coin money, and they had the development of iron tools, just like the Hittites in Mesopotamia. And they also had a large bureaucracy that helped them oversee their vast empire. Towards the end of the Zhou period, we had the development of three central Chinese philosophies that are still influential today in Chinese culture. We have Confucianism, Taoism, and finally legalism. Towards the end of the Zhou period, the last 100 years or so, we call this the Warring States. And this is when the nobles, or the other competing families in Zhou China, start to fight with one another for power because they believe that the Zhou Dynasty has lost the mandate of heaven, or that divine authority to rule. And this causes quite a lot of fighting until the Qin Dynasty, the last of the dynasties we're going to look at today, assumes power. And if you know anything about China, or whenever you hear the word China, you immediately think of probably two things. One, the Great Wall, and two, the Terracotta Warriors. And this is all due to the very short dynasty that lasts around 15 years in China called the Qin. The very first emperor, Shi Huangdi, was a very ruthless, strict ruler who was not afraid to essentially kill his own people in order to achieve his goals. And one of his goals was to build a wall of protection, which later becomes the Great Wall of China. And despite all these things of being ruthless, he did carry out some better things, such as the standardization of Chinese calligraphy, or their writing system, also laws, money across his empire, and also improving the roads as well. If you pause this video and you see up the top left hand corner, there's a little video camera. If you click it, it should take you to hyperlinked video, which should load in just a couple moments. And I'll just let it play. And this is a video from the Travel Channel. It's about China. Sorry, there's an ad. Let's skip that. But this video, the video is from the Travel Channel, but it does a nice job of offering a good overview and an introduction to the Great Wall of China. So I encourage you to pause the video and you can watch it, and I'll also have a link in the description for this video here, so you can watch that as well.